Hey guys, my name is Meiko from Macchiino, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to paint this ocean and beach scenery with watercolors using the Expression watercolor paper by Hahnemühle. This looks more difficult than it actually is, I promise. This paper is part of the new release line of watercolor papers by Hahnemühle, Harmony and Expression. They are both not only acid-free, age, light, and eraser-resistant, but also suitable for masking fluid, tape, and for all types of wet painting techniques. While masking fluid or masking tape can be removed residue-free, wet colors can be easily corrected or taken off, making the paper extremely versatile and durable for all sorts of watercolor techniques. The Harmony paper is available in cold-pressed, rough, and hot-pressed, which offers a unique variety of different surfaces to choose from. All three versions of the Harmony line can be found in many different sizes and formats: spiral bound, glued blocks, sheets, and rolls. And in the video I'm going to use the Expression watercolor paper that is cold pressed and made out of 100% natural white cotton. The first thing we want to do is to cover up about 5 mm of the edges using some masking tape. This will not only prevent the paper from curling if you use loose sheets of paper, but also create a nice white frame later on once you are finished with the painting. Next, lightly add a few guidelines using a pencil or a blue watercolor pencil to help you find the right composition where we have enough room for the sky, the ocean, and the beach. And now it's time to work on the ocean, starting with the foam part. For this step, I'm going to use blue tinted masking fluid so it's more visible during the painting process. Begin by painting a thin line recreating the shape of the water that is floating onto the beach. Do this really freely and don't think too much. It's good if it looks messy, as this will make the result look more natural. From here, make the strap of foam a little bit wider and add more and more swirly and random lines slightly vertically towards the horizon. The key here is to just let go and to loosely create random lines that are sometimes thick, sometimes thin, and sometimes make them cross each other. This way we create the perfect base for the foam and light reflections we can work on more later. The higher you get towards the horizon, the thinner I will create those lines. You can use either a really thin brush, or in this case I used an old nail polish brush that had a very thin tip. And for the rest of the ocean we can add a few light reflections using masking fluid and the same thin brush. Carefully dab on the masking fluid on top of the ocean area right below the sky to create small dots and lines here and there. Now while the masking fluid is drying, we can move on to painting the sky and the clouds. Begin by distributing clear water all over the top area of the paper until you get a nice glossy surface. This will make it easier for us to work on the sky. Next, load up your brush with blue colored watercolor paint and apply it all over the wet surface until you cover the whole area above the ocean. It's okay if the wash is not completely even, this will just help us to create more natural looking clouds. While the paint is still wet, take some tissue paper, crumble it up a little bit, and go over the paper to soak up some of the paint to reveal the wet paper again, while at the same time creating nice fluffy clouds. Gently press down the paper and soak up some of the paint here and there. Load up your damp brush with more blue colored paint and carefully apply it around the lighter areas in the sky and lightly blend it in to create more dimension. If you feel like it looks too dark for the mood you're going for, simply take the tissue paper again and soak up the excess paint. The goal here is to create really soft white clouds with a few different shades of blue for a more interesting look, so we don't have to be super precise here. Once the masking fluid has dried, we can go ahead and paint the ocean. Again, load up your wet brush with blue colored paint and start distributing it at the horizon and making the shade lighter and lighter the further you go downwards. This will create the different amount of deepness in the ocean. To make it look more like a beautiful ocean, you can also mix in a little bit of light green colored paint to make the shade look more turquoise. Stop right above the area where we applied the masking fluid, since here we will create a nice transition between the ocean and the beach. For this step, load up your wet brush with an ochre brown color that looks similar to sand and apply it all over the lower part of the paper. Once you reach the blue area, lightly blend both together to create a slightly green shade of color. While the ocean and the beach are drying, we can go back to the sky and intensify a few areas. Here I used a warmer shade of blue and applied it here and there the same way as in the beginning. This way we make a few clouds stand out a little bit more, while adding a nice variation of different blue shades in the sky. Alright, now before we remove the masking fluid, let's add a few more details to the foam part. Load up your brush with a slightly darker shade of brown colored paint and carefully go over the very edge of the foam part, creating a thin line as a shadow right below. Here I focused on making the line thicker on the right side of each wavy shape and slightly thinner on the left side. This way the foam part gets more depth. You can also use this color and go over a few areas right above to create shadows in the water. Okay, now let everything completely dry. Once everything has completely dried, carefully remove the masking fluid. Depending on which type you're using, you have to either rub it or peel it off. The great thing about this paper is that it's durable, so it was really easy to remove the masking fluid without any excess residue or tearing the paper. And this is how it looks so far. Now we can make everything look even more interesting. For this step, load up your wet brush with the same shade of blue that you used for the ocean, and then lightly go over the wide area of the foam. You want to create a light wash of blue colored paint to add depth. Do the same with the ochre colored paint and lightly blend it in as well, but keep a few areas still white. To make the ocean look more interesting as well, we can now go ahead and use slightly darker shades of blue and green colored paint on top. Load up your brush with paint and apply it horizontally over the paper, and from here blend out the lines to create different shades here and there. Here we want to cover a few wet areas to make them look a little bit blue, while at the same time making other areas slightly darker to add more depth to the water again. Soak up some of the paint with a tissue paper from time to time to reveal some of the white reflections we created with the help of masking fluid. And to add even more shadows and to make the beach area look more three-dimensional, I simply used a darker shade of yellow and ochre colored paint and applied it in between the white foamy areas. Lastly, you can add even more details if you want. Here I used a little bit of acrylic paint and gouache to create a few more light reflections on top of the water. Use a dry brush, load it up with a little bit of white paint, and gently apply it onto the paper. Since this Expression watercolor paper is cold pressed, we have a great paper texture that is perfect for the wet on dry technique. The paint will slightly brush onto the paper with the help of the texture, creating really subtle and small light reflections. And to finish off the painting, you can also add more depth to the scent part. For this step, cover up the top part of the painting, load up your wet brush with dark brown color, and then sprinkle the paint to a few areas with the help of your finger. This way you create more details in the sand and make it look more interesting. And now we can carefully remove the masking tape, revealing a clean white frame around the painting, and we are done. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Just with a little bit of masking fluid, tissue paper, and watercolors, you can create a really simple ocean scenery with a hint of realism. The Harmony paper is available in cold pressed, rough, and hot pressed, which offers a unique variety of different surfaces to choose from. All three versions of the Harmony line can be found in many different sizes and formats. Make sure to follow Hahnemühle on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to stay up to date. And for even more information, you can check out their website, blog, and YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye!